Hello, my dear friend. Welcome once again to Blind Dad Does. My name is Ira, and I hope you're having a very good day. Today, well, Blind Dad is doing whatever happens to be coming to the mind. I did about a 3-hour stream earlier with the new game that just came out into closed beta called New World. It was put out by Amazon. It's one of their new things, and I got into the closed beta for it, decided to play around with it a little bit, and spent about 3 hours with it. And it was a very interesting game, but I have some issues with it, and I can discuss those as we go along. But Ollie, well, hello. How are you doing tonight? It is very nice to have you here and chatting with me once more, my dear friend. I am glad to have you here. Yeah, tonight we're going to just kind of discuss whatever comes to mind. Whatever happens to be there in the head is totally acceptable and doable and all of that kind of good stuff. So, yeah, whatever you guys have on your mind. How's your day been, Ollie? How's things going over there? Yeah, so anyways, this New World game, I didn't have any interest at first when it was kind of first announced and, you know, really getting some press and stuff like that last year. Because when they first came out with the information about it, they discussed the fact that it was going to be very PvP centric. Well, for those of you guys that may or may not be aware, Ira don't do PvP, not very much at all. And the reason is because, well, I am blind. And so if I try to do a PvP game, I'm walking into it already handicapped, literally. So anybody who doesn't have the visual issues that I do already has a very major advantage over me. So it's difficult at best to do PvP style games. That's why I primarily do either single player or games that you can do consensual PvP. Not that the PvP is like always on or active, but where the PvP is consensual, where you have to agree, yes, I'm going to be flagged for PvP or whatever the case may be. So when New World was first announced last year, well, I mean, it was kind of announced before that, but it really started getting a lot of press last year. They were talking about the fact that PvP was going to be always on and all of that kind of stuff. And the problem with me, again, is that I don't do that kind of thing. So it turned my interest of that game completely off. No, I'm not interested in doing anything that's PvP centric. It's not fair to me. And I'm not going to, suffer through that kind of thing. But that being said, over the past couple of months, they have done a lot of changes with the game. They have sort of refocused things so that instead of being PvP centric, it's a little bit of both. You can do either or. And at this point, the PvP is much more of a consensual based. So in other words, you have to agree or flag for PvP before you can actually go into PvP. So for me, that's helpful. I would say that kind of thing definitely makes it a lot more interesting for me. So, getting into the closed beta of it, I was very excited about it, and I decided to start messing around with it tonight. Oh my Lord, there are so many people streaming that game. I only had like one watcher the whole time. So it is what it is as far as all that goes. But a couple of problems that I ended up encountering with it is that, again, for me, I need to like have things adjusted a certain way so that I can be able to play properly. And delving into the game, one of the problems that I ended up encountering immediately is that the UI cannot be scaled. You can't do anything to affect the UI and how it scales on the screen, shy of perhaps, and I didn't mess around with this part of it, but shy of perhaps like changing the resolution scale of the game itself downwards. So in other words, instead of playing it like 1920 by 1080, bringing it down to 1280 by 720. That might be doable, but at the same time, if my system can handle the game as it is, and if I'm streaming it at 1080p, then me bringing the game itself down to 720p doesn't make a lot of sense, right? But it might be that will be what I have to do to make it so that the resolution so that the UI is scaled differently. But I don't know. That's something I didn't mess around with while I was on stream, because I didn't want to go screwing around with, the resolution scales and all that kind of stuff while trying to live stream a game. That just makes it bad for the watchers, So I didn't bother with that kind of thing. But all that being said, the game itself was pretty enjoyable for what it is. It reminded me quite a bit of like Fable as far as the combat style was concerned, combined with maybe Guild Wars 2 or something along those lines. Very familiar feeling as far as those kind of things goes. But it was overall a pretty fun time, like I said, shy of my eyes being very tired and sore after having to squint as much as I was trying to see the things that I needed to see. Hence the reason why I'm not playing a game right now. I did still want to stream. I still wanted to, get on here and talk and be with people, but I just couldn't do a game tonight because my eyes, I don't think, are going to be able to handle it very well. It was kind of, it was a pretty major strain. And so I'm seeing like my eyes having a pretty big effect. You know what I mean? So, so you're learning how to draw furries. You're learning how to draw furries, Ollie. Okay. So what kind of furries? Are we talking about like the costume furries? Or are we talking about like the furry creatures, or what kind of furries are you focusing on? I'm very curious about that. I do know that you do a lot of really, really awesome artwork though. So I'm very interested in seeing what you can do with it. Furries. Well, that still doesn't answer the question. Okay, anthro animals, right? Okay, so that's what I figured, but I just wanted to make sure, like, if you weren't, I was kind of like more implying, are you trying to draw like mock-ups or whatever for people like to have their costumes created with, or something along those lines? That's what I was trying to get figured out. Because that is a thing, that is a thing. Right. I wasn't trying to fun you or anything like that. I was just legit trying to figure out which direction you were going to go with it. Just doing busts. Okay. That's cool. That's cool. Just, don't do too many busts because you can get demonetized depending on where that goes. Oh, wait. Nope. Wrong kind of busts. So, anyways, Tina, hey, welcome. How you doing tonight? I hope that everything is going good for you. I hope that Ollie, I hope that things are going good for you tonight, Tina. I was playing a game earlier. I did about 3 hours worth of live streaming earlier tonight with the new game New World, and I was just discussing some of the problems that I had with it, and my resulting eyes being extremely tired and extremely sore at this point in time. I'm kind of trying to do what I can to avoid getting a high drop. Those high drops are kind of a nightmare for those of you guys that may not be aware of what is going on with me. I do have a genetic defect in my eyes. I was born with it, but it didn't really start kicking in big time until about 12 years ago. And that's when I went blind with what I've got. So my eyes are pyramid shaped instead of egg shaped. I have a lot of scarring all over my corneas. And so pretty much anything past about 2 or 3 inches in front of my face, I'm very blind to, unless I squint super hard to try to get things in focus. But what ends up happening sometimes is that the fluid from inside of my eyes will seep out through the scars on the cornea, and it will cause like blisters to occur. And these blisters feel like there's a stone in your eye all the time, like all the time. And you can't do anything to get rid of it. The more you touch it, the more you mess with it, the more you try to get rid of it, the more it gets worse. So unfortunately, I've figured out over the years that one of my triggers for that is to strain my eyes, to do a lot of squinting and that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, the game earlier, I can feel like in my left eye, it's sort of trying to get there, and I'm hoping to avoid it as the evening progresses. But I still wanted to do some streaming. I still wanted to get on and be able to talk to people and have some fun with people, you know, and just enjoy everybody's company. So here I am. Let me see what you guys are saying here. Sorry about that. Your in-laws are there. Oh, okay. Okay. So, yeah. All of my in-laws have been absolutely terrible. I've been married 4 times, and every one of my in-laws have been absolutely horrible. Oh gosh. I have never gotten along with any of my in-laws, and I don't know, maybe it's me. No, it can't be me. I'm too nice of a guy. Anyways, so I'm damn entertaining. There's no reason why it can't be me. So yeah, in-laws for me have always been a bit of a nightmare, but I'm glad that you get along with yours. Like at least reasonably, you guys can be in the same room together without murdering each other, right? I can understand why my first in-laws didn't get along with me, because I was very young. I was like 18 years old, and I got their 16-year-old daughter pregnant. I can imagine why they didn't care for me very much. But as the years have progressed, obviously we've tried to do things because of my daughter, my oldest daughter, Beth. We've tried to do things to get along with each other over the years, you know. But so the relationship's gotten at least reasonably. I mean, we don't get along necessarily because I don't like anything that they do. I don't like the people that they are. But we can at least get along. You know what I mean? Like we can be in the room without murdering each other, kind of a thing. So good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Definitely. 'Cause that's one thing that really sucks is like when you get married, you marry the other people that are in the family too. You know what I mean? And sometimes those other people are not fun at all. Some of them are rather psycho hose beasts, and you know, you got to deal with it. One thing I'm kind of grateful for, and not because like she chose to go this direction or that the circumstances were such that she had to choose this direction, but Jolene walked away from all of her family when she got married to me because none of them liked me, you know, and they were trying to do everything that they could to break up the relationship and just make our lives hell, basically. So she walked away from all of them, told them that she didn't want to have anything to do with them anymore. And I'm glad for that, but I'm upset that the choice had to be made that way. You know what I mean? She didn't have to do that, but that was the choice that she made to kind of have her own sanity, I guess you could say. So, darn it, my headphones are deciding to mess up. It's kind of cutting the sound out a little bit. All right, there we go. I think I got that better. Can't tell if the nasal spray made your nose worse or better. I mean, if your nose is still there and it hasn't fallen off, then obviously it's not too bad. But that does happen. Oh, wait. No, it doesn't. If your nose fell off from nasal spray, that'd be a real big problem. Well, you're kind of in an area right now where there's a lot of like smoke in the atmosphere and stuff. There's like air warnings, you know, air purity warnings, I guess is the best way to put it. Air quality. That's the one I'm trying to look for. Air quality warnings. So, and with your allergies, I can imagine it's kind of driving you nuts. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. But you know, honestly, it's like, it's weird. I don't know. Like in-laws just have never liked me. There's one of them, like, I guess thought I was reasonably okay, but we still had a very tenuous relationship, and that was with my second wife. And I think the main reason why it was tenuous was because of the relationship that I had with their daughter. It was the mom that I got along with. Her dad I didn't at all, but her mom I got along with okay. But she kind of knew the person that her daughter was too. And I think that she knew what was going on in the relationship and the abuse and stuff that she was putting me through. So, in ways she felt really bad and didn't want to necessarily be around me to be reminded that that was going on. I hope that that makes sense, but I think that's probably one of the reasons as far as that particular in-law was concerned. Like I said, my first ones, we at least like tolerate each other, but there are a lot of things that they've done over the years that I despise, and it's very hard. Okay, laying open book, right? When I went through everything that I went through with that first wife, my eldest daughter, I tried to get custody from her mom because she wasn't being the best, you know. And I spent thousands of dollars trying to get custody, you know, trying to spend so many years trying to do it. And these in-laws were actively fighting against me to make sure that I never was able to get custody. The father-in-law was an executive at GM, and when we went through the divorce that we went through, like he had one of the GM's lawyers be doing the divorce, you know, and I didn't have a lawyer. I couldn't afford one. So I got pretty railroaded in that whole divorce proceeding. But anyways, like over the years, they've done a lot of things to, I guess, really piss me off, is what it comes down to, as far as my kid is concerned. But you know, at this stage, she's 30 years old. So, there's not much that I'd have to deal with them with anymore. You know, I do try to get along with them, at least in some kind of ways, for the sake of my kid and for the sake of my grandkid, because I know that the family still has to be involved somehow, somewhere, right? And I can be adult enough that even if I don't care for the people, I can at least manage to like grin and bear it while I have to be around them, I guess you could say. You're so runny. I'm sorry, Ollie. I am. I'm sorry that you're going through that. Have you tried like some kind of like saline drops or anything like that? Maybe that would help. Well, you said you did a nasal spray, so maybe not. Yeah. Yeah, understanding their children's faults is definitely one of the big things that so many people have, like this God complex when it comes to their kids. You know, their kids are their princesses or their little princes, you know, and they can do no wrong ever and all that kind of stuff. It's like, no, they're humans. They're still going to make mistakes. They're still going to be, you know, assholes when they're going to be assholes and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's the nasal spray. Gotcha. So the nasal spray is what's making you run. Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'm sorry you're going through that. I am. Blow hard. Blow hard. So, anyways, yeah, in-laws, they're a topic in and of itself. You know what I mean? Like I've had some real winners of in-laws. My third wife's in-law, mom and dad were, okay. Like, again, we didn't get along, but we got along for the sake of like the relationship, but they were not really the best parents for my ex either, you know? Well, I can tell you a story that happened that kind of, I think, really tells the tale, I guess, of how sometimes parents, they don't see the fault that their kids are doing. When, this may get a little TMI. Okay. This may get a little long in the tooth as far as the story is concerned, but bear with me because I think that it's worthwhile like hearing. So when my third wife left, I knew that it was coming. Like we didn't, the relationship was definitely falling apart. Okay. And it was through not really necessarily a fault of either of us. It was it was mental issues that were going on. So basically my ex, was a really like kind, good person, right? When we first got together and so on and so forth. And for the first years of our relationship. Yeah, that's my beardly goodness. So hello to genders only ever. So, hey, welcome to the show. I hope you're having a really good night. Anyways, this, the relationship was okay. You know, it was what it was, for the first years that we were together. Thank you. Hello. So, Ollie, can you do a little bit of banding there for me, please? Thank you very much. Anyways, thank you. I do try to be as chill as I can be. You know, get along with everybody, and it's hopefully a decent place to be. But for those of you guys that are new, welcome. I am a blind guy. I do try to do everything that I do through this severely impaired vision that I have, and so on and so forth. But it's fun, makes things interesting, right? But anyways, so when my ex had the two kids that she had with me, the first one, she changed some after the birth happened. It is floofy, yeah. So sometimes what ends up happening, and it, again, it's no fault of their own, right? It's just something that happens with mental illness and stuff. It is kind of gay. Yeah. You know, I mean, having a name like F the LGBT and walking in asking for solid head, you know. I mean, if you want me to swing that way, hey, whatever. Okay. Anyways, so what ends up happening is that through postpartum depression, sometimes the mother, something breaks a little bit, you know, and it doesn't come back fully from what was there before. I hope that makes sense. Like, again, it's a known mental thing that happens sometimes. It's rare, but it happens sometimes with people that are going through the postpartum depression. It like really holds on to them, and maybe it's from the trauma or something along those lines. They just aren't quite the same after they recover from it. So I saw that happen when she had Seth, and then when she had our second kiddo, that same thing occurred again, but then it got a lot worse. So she ended up turning very cold, very emotionless. And really, I guess the only thing that she had emotionally speaking was a lot of anger, you know, and a lot of frustration. So I knew that eventually she was going to leave. But one of the pieces of advice that I got, really one of the only usable pieces of advice that I was able to get from one of my grandparents, was that if I wanted to keep these kids, I had to have her be the one to leave, not me. And I understood that at a really important level because I had already gone through that with my other kid. I saw what kind of fight I had to go through to keep that relationship. You know what I mean? And I was just never able to actually get her, you know? So my third wife, when I came home from work one day, basically she met me at the door and she said, I'm done. I can't be here anymore. And she left. She went to go stay with some friends of ours, mutual friends, and because she needed a place to go, you know. And while she was there, she was there for about a month. And while she was there, at the end of it all, she ended up stealing in the middle of the night $300 from their bank account. And she was going to the Greyhound bus station so that she could take a trip to New Hampshire to go be with somebody that she met over the internet. We all busted her with it. Like, before she could actually get onto the bus, we discovered what was going on, and were able to detain her and make it stop, right? Well, going to the mother-in-law part of things, when everything was said and done that night, which, by the way, the cops even brought her to my house asking if it'd be okay if she stayed there because she didn't have anywhere else to go. And I'm like, no. Even if I wanted her to, it wasn't my house, and the person that owned it would not allow her to be there. So that ain't happening, baby. Her mother called me hours into the night, hollering at me about how I kicked her daughter out in the middle of the night and that she had no place to go and how could I do this to her, and so on and so on and so on. And I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Pam, 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 Pam. Her name was Pam. Pam, 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 Pam. Wait, you've got to hear everything that occurred. Okay. So I talked to her about everything that had happened, laid it all out on the table for her. And by the time everything was said and done, she did not believe me. Because again, it's her daughter, right? It's her kid. How can I do this to her? So on and so forth, you know? So the person that she had done all this to was sitting right next to me as I was having this discussion with my mother-in-law. And, he had known my ex for a really long time, and her mom trusted this guy a lot, right? So I'm like, do you want to talk to him? He can verify the story that I'm telling you here. So he got onto the phone, talked it through, and that's when she finally believed me about what was going on, and agreed that she would like cover the costs of what my ex had taken and so on and so forth, you know? Because he was pissed off. I mean, he's like, I want my money back, you know, because he couldn't get a refund on the bus ticket that she had bought with the money that she had stolen from him. So, long story short, too late. She went back home to go stay with her parents. And while there, a couple of months after being there, I get a call from Pam again, asking me if I had heard from her. I'm like, no, I haven't talked to her for a really long time here. And basically come to discover, she had told her parents that she was going to be going to Canada for a business trip to go through training up there. And when she got up there, she basically defected and became a Canadian citizen, and went to go live with a guy that she met on the internet. Pattern, right? There's a pattern there. So that in-law I got along with somewhat, but it's still kind of proof positive that no matter what you say or do, the person is still their child, and they're not always very open to whatever things you're going to tell them about their child. I hope that all that makes sense. Long story, but, you know, kind of goes back to the topic at hand of in-laws and how problematic they can be. I promise I'm doing my best to not be like an evil in-law kind of a thing. If one of my kiddos gets married, I'm hoping that I can be an in-law that they can get along with, you know, because I don't want to be that kind of person. You know, I know the foibles my kids have, you know. If you're going to tell me something about my kids, you know, I'm going to know whether or not it's BS or not. You know what I mean? Like, I know what my kids are capable of. So, you know, and I just unfortunately unplugged my headphones. So give me just a brief moment here while I get it plugged back in again. Okay, I think I've got it fixed now. Anyway, so that's been my like a kind of a pattern all the way through my life, though, is that, you know, the in-laws that I've dealt with, they've just not been very good, you know, but they weren't really all that great of parents to begin with, I guess, is really what it comes down to. So Tina, I'm glad that the in-laws that you have are really good. Like, definitely hold on to that idea, you know, because it's a rarity, unfortunately, to have decent in-laws. There's horror stories about mother-in-laws for a reason, you know, and I know, like, I'm going to lay things out on the table, right? Cause that's who I am, right? My mom is, not a very good mother-in-law, like, not at all. She's done so many different things over the years to the different relationships that I've had to try to, like, ruin them or to, like, change them or whatever the case may be. She's done a lot of damage, you know? And, so I am grateful for Jolene being who she is and not, like, letting things that my mom has tried to do over the years to, you know, harm our relationship, she's never allowed that kind of thing to occur, you know, for her. It's unfortunate because my mom, like, I've probably mentioned this before, but my mom has dementia, and she does live with us. So it's rough, you know, I won't lie. It is rough. And it's roughest on Jolene, cause she takes a lot of brunt of things, you know, because she's the evil daughter-in-law, you know, so she unfortunately takes a little bit, you know, comparatively. But it is what it is. We're doing our best that we can, but there's definitely that control factor with things. Yeah. And like, unfortunately with our case in particular, it's even harder because, she doesn't even recognize me sometimes as being a 50-year-old man, you know? She still thinks of me as being that younger child that she has to take care of and watch over and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, no. Back off, woman. I don't need that. You know what I mean? So, it's aggravating. It really is. It's aggravating. I mean, you know, I don't necessarily know what else to do with the situation, though, because we're kind of like in a bit of an untenable situation with it. It's not that we can't afford it or anything like that, but, you know, it's difficult when you have the disabilities that you do, to get somebody evicted out when they are on the lease and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's not the easiest thing. So anyways, not to go into too much stuff, but it's hard. I won't deny it is difficult. So it's like exacerbated because she doesn't realize, like, the situation, you know, she's still, or has regressed, you know, to the point where she's in that younger mode of who she was, you know, and all that. So yeah, absolutely. And it's not that, like, my mom is, like, abusive to her or things like that, but it's like she's she can get nasty, you know, is really what it comes down to. And for those of you guys that have dealt with people that have dementia, you know that is definitely an aspect of things. They can get nasty, you know. And it's rough. It's hard. It's hard on the people that, like, are, like, it's hard on me because this is my mom, you know what I mean? And I see the person that she was, and I see the person that she is at this stage, and they're two completely different things, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like how I have with my father, having these two different versions of him in my head, the person that he was when he was drinking and abusive, and the person that he was after he quit drinking. It's sort of like that, only in this case, it's going opposite. So the person that she was really good. The person that she's become with the dementia is much much harder to live with and much more difficult to compensate for. Kerfuffled very easily. Yeah, definitely. So for me, it's difficult because I've made her the promise years ago that I would never allow her to live alone, because she's never lived alone a day in her life. And so at this stage of things, I'm still mentally trying to process the fact that, I made this promise to her, and holding the guilt of like trying to tell her we can't have you here because this is a toxic situation, basically, is what it comes down to. So we're trying to do what we can to find her a place to go. But unfortunately, because of the way that she is, she has enough lucidity at times that getting her declared incompetent has not been a thing. We haven't been able to get it done, even though we have to take care of her in every aspect of things. And she's lost enough and she hallucinates enough and so on and so forth that she can't think straight anymore. But she has enough of that lucidity there that when faced with somebody that comes in or that we take her to say, please get her declared, they can't do it. So it's a really hard situation, and I hope that nobody else out there has to go through something like this. It's hard, Boy, I've been getting dark tonight. I'm sorry. I'm not intending to, but it's just kind of, we were talking about mental health. I mean, that's, that's part of the mental health stuff. It's rough, to have somebody, not only a family member having the dementia, but having the dementia patient living with you and having to take care of them 24/7 and not having any other help with it. It's really hard. I won't bite any bones about it. It is not an easy situation. So I'm grateful for Jolene being the person that she is, because she's never let any of it affect her, and, has really stood the test of time and the test of patience with not only the situation with her, but, just everything that we go through in day-to-day life, already throws you a curve. And then she's already got her own health problems and everything on top of it. It's like, this woman is an angel, I tell you. I'm very, very lucky to have her in my life, and so are my kids, and I hope that they recognize it too. So anyway, thank you, Ollie, by the way, for doing the mod work there. I appreciate it. Didn't need that kind of toxicity starting up. I don't normally like banning people, but when people walk in, two users one right after another, I could tell it was a kind of a trolling situation. Both of them having, anti-LGBT kind of things going on in their usernames. I sorry for my language here, but I don't fuck around with that. It's just, it's not something I ever want to have in my chats anymore. I dealt with that kind of stuff in the radio days, and I'm not about that, I don't want to have anybody else exposed to that kind of thing. So it is what it is, but thank you for modding it. I appreciate it. If you ever see anybody that comes in like that, just insta ban them. It's fine by me. So I'm not one to just ban people outright. I'm willing to take anybody's opinions. I'm willing to hear anybody's sides of things and all that kind of stuff. But there's certain topics that I just don't tolerate, racism is one, by far. Racism is absolutely one. And people that are doing things to just breed hatred, through anti-LGBT kind of stuff. It really aggravates me. I mean, there's no need for it. Don't make people's lives miserable. My biggest rule in the chat room is don't be a dick. That's really what it comes down to. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a thick skin, dealing with the radio for as long as I did. And for as many people as I've dealt with over the years, I've got a thick skin. I can put up with anything and I can talk about anything, but there are just certain things that I'm not going to put up with. So they were apparently wanting it. Yeah. But, I don't have it on offer here. So not going to happen, sweetheart. You get that, like they both came in at the same time. Obviously they know each other, honestly, I guarantee you they know each other. They're trolling people's rooms. That's what it comes down to. I guarantee that's what it is. Because they both came in at the exact same time. They both have the exact same kind of mentality. They both have the same kind of usernames. Either it's the same person doing, like a multi-chat kind of a thing, or it's two different people talking to each other on Discord, trying to have a laugh. Is honestly what it comes down to. So I could tell it instantly as soon as I saw both the names pop up. I'm like, yep. Okay, I know what we're dealing with here. I don't want to ban anybody. If they come in like talking politics and religion and all that kind of stuff, if they have differing opinions of me, that's fine. Hey, more power to you. I'm not a religious person myself. I used to be, if you guys want to hear that of a story, I can give you that one. I used to be hyper religious. I was raised in a weird kind of way. My mom was raised Catholic. My dad was raised an atheist. We went to a Baptist church and they sent me to a Lutheran school. I've had a lot of weird upbringing as far as religion is concerned. And then I was on the pathway to become a preacher. I was on the path to become a preacher, getting ordained. I am ordained actually at this point, for those of you guys curious. But I decided to not go that direction for a couple of different reasons. One of them is because I talked to a pastor that I looked up to, and I told them this pressure that I felt to become a preacher. And they told me, with your history, I don't think you'd make a very good preacher. And I'm like, you know what, bud? With my history, I think I'd be probably one of the best ones, because I'm not going to be judgmental to people. I know what it's like to be poor. I know what it's like to go through crap. I know what it's like to have all of this different stuff happen to you over the years, So that was a little off-putting. And I know that's not God speaking. You know what I mean? That's the man speaking. The same guy, by the way, when I was at the church one day, and a woman came in and talked to him and asked him if the church could do anything to help her out, because she was dead broke. Her husband actually had just gotten into a car accident not too long before, and their medical bills were piling up. They didn't even really have food. And the pastor told her, I'm sorry, but the church can't help you out with this. And then he walked out the door and he got into his brand new Cadillac. That's a problem. You know what I mean? That really is a problem, because the church is supposed to be there to do this. That is its purpose, is to help the flock that's there. And not only its flock itself, but anybody that needs help. That's its purpose. You see what I mean? So, I did not last at that church very long. Like I was pretty quickly done with it. I couldn't take the hypocrisy that was there. That's one thing. If you guys ever want to know one thing that really triggers me, it's people being hypocrites, So I was on the pathway to become a pastor. And then So I'm the kind of person that when I'm trying to learn something or figure things out or whatever the case may be, I try to like delve into it as much as it is possible to do. Okay. So, when reading the biblical texts, I realized that there were things that were there that didn't seem right. Okay. So, especially when it came to people's attitudes towards the things that were there, right? The things that people speak, like, I guess let me put it to you this way. There's a type of person that is pretty prevalent in the religious world today, and that is somebody that I have termed a cafeteria Christian. Okay. Cafeteria Christians are the ones who will go to the Bible, they'll take whatever tastes good, and they will skip the rest. You know, well, for me, my thought process is that if you're going to be a thing, be the thing wholeheartedly. Like, you know, if you're concerned about your eternal soul and that you're going to go to hell if you don't follow XXXXX, then you would think that you would want to know every little thing possible about this subject so that you can be sure of, you know, what direction you're heading, right? You would think that this would be a thing, but it's not. It's like not something that people do. Instead, they listen to what people tell them more than they actually do themselves. And that's a pretty big issue, you know, that's a pretty big issue. And listen, I want to make clear here, I'm not bashing religion. Okay. I think that religion has a very deep purpose. It's there, you know, if you're using religion as a way to help you get through the things that you need to get through, or as a way to help you to get past like your past, or to make you feel better, to make you feel more secure, all of that kind of stuff. If you're using it for that, then God love you. We need more like you. You know what I mean? Take it and go with it, right? Good luck to you. That's not for me, but good luck to you, right? But if you're a Christian who uses the biblical texts to cause people harm in any way, I will call you out for your hypocrisy in a heartbeat. Okay. I probably know the Bible better than your average person does by far. I have read it multiple times. I've not only read it, but I've studied the original Hebrew. I've studied the original Aramaic. I've studied the original Greek. I know what the text says outside of what the text actually says, outside of what the translations actually say. Right. Rules for thee, not for me. Exactly. So I know what the original intent with the words were. And I not only researched all of the original texts, but I also looked into the context of it all too, because the Bible, the books of the Bible, and this is so important to hear, the books of the Bible were all written for a specific people at a specific time in a specific place. And anything that like anybody that tries to insert those words into a different situation is in for hell. It can't be done. And it can't be done with any like surety. You know what I mean? So just as an example, the whole thing with Leviticus that everybody points out to with the LGBT community, you know, Leviticus 18, man shall not lay with a man and blah, 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 blah. Right? Okay. Let me clue you into what the original text actually has to speak about with all of this. There is a certain practice that occurred during that period of time, and it still does actually today to a certain point, but there was a practice that took place during that period of time and up into actually the Roman Empire had it very prevalently, called pederasty. Okay. This thing was about, okay, I'll give you a modern day example of what it's about. Okay. Men in prison have sex with each other, right? But they are not themselves gay. They're doing it to satisfy the lustfulness that's there. They're doing it to satisfy the physical need, but they're not actually gay or by themselves, right? They're doing it just to do it. Okay. And sometimes it's done out of a technique. It's a power move, you know, when you rape somebody else, it's a power move, right? And I'm not trying to make light or anything of these things. I've been raped myself. I know it's a power move. Okay. It's not about sex, right? So, that original Leviticus text is speaking about this practice of men laying with men against what is natural for them. So in other words, if you're not gay, having sex with another man is not natural for you. It is not something that you would normally do, right? It's against your nature. If you're a woman and you have sex with a woman, but you're not a lesbian, this is going against your nature. Okay. That is what the text is speaking about, is going against what is natural for you. And that's where the trouble comes in. Okay. At the same time, those same sets of verses talk about don't wear mixed clothing. Don't wear, so all of the Christians who are spouting off about, you know, you can't be gay because Leviticus says not to be gay. Well, Leviticus also says you can't wear a cotton polyester blends, Karen. But I see you're wearing a sweatsuit there, and I know that's a cotton polyester blend, you know? So you can't take the one and scream about it without also taking the rest as well. It's one, all or nothing, right? It's all or nothing. So if you're going to do the one, you've got to do them all, and you've got to stand against it all, right? And then people talk like the same people who bring up the Leviticus stuff and they bash people that are gay and all of that kind of stuff will then also say, well, the stuff that's in the Old Testament doesn't necessarily apply to what's in Christianity today. It's there as, you know, it's there as help, but it's not stuff that we have to obey. Okay, well then why are you freaking out about Tom being gay? You know, do you see what I mean, guys? Like, I'm sorry if I'm like pissing people off here. No, I'm not really sorry about it, but you know, if I'm pissing people off here, please respond. You know, I'd love to know what you think with all of this, but I'm giving you guys the actual information that's there, right? And if it's pissing you off, well, then maybe do a little bit of research yourself and figure out whether I'm right or wrong. Because I've done the research. You know, I've done the studies. I know what the texts say. Have you read the original Hebrew? Do you know what it says? Have you done it word by word and understood exactly what it's meaning? Do you know the stories about what happened to people back then? You know, the same people, again, the same Leviticus verses. Okay, if a woman is on her period, she's supposed to go away from the rest of the camp for 7 days. Okay, well, okay, Karen, are you on your period? Did you have your period recently? Did you go away from the camp? Have you washed yourself clean? Have you cleansed yourself with the rituals that are supposed to take place? Have you sacrificed the goat that needed to be sacrificed in order to make yourself clean before you came back into my house? No? Well, then don't scream about Tom being gay. You see what I mean? Like it's all or nothing, right? It's all or nothing. You've got to, you know, I hope I'm making sense with all of this. Ira watches as his view count goes. It's just it's the frustrating things, you know what I mean? It's like the idea of like pornography, okay? And this is another subject that's super in people's heads, right? Okay. But again, going with where the original texts are and the original context of everything, okay? The idea of... Right, exactly. If I wasn't meant to be the way that I am, then why did God put me here like this, right? Exactly. I mean, maybe God put maybe God put gay Tom over here in your life so that you can understand that God has a purpose for everybody's life, and you doing all of the things that you're doing to poor Tom is not only making him miserable, but it's turning him away from God. Do you not think that people are going to be punished? I'm sorry, I'm trying not to cuss here. Do you not think that if you're being evil and turning Tom away from God, that you're not going to be punished by God? What was his big rule? The one person that's missing out of the flock, he goes after. That's the one that he goes with, that he seeks out, that he brings back home. And if you're literally taking that sheep and casting it away, do you not think God's going to be a little bit pissed off about that? When you're standing before him and in the judgment seat, do you not think that God's going to maybe say, you know what? Do you remember Tom? And you're going to have to answer for all of that. If you push Tom away from ever becoming a Christian, ever being saved, ever accepting Christ into his heart, or whatever it is, if you think that this is not something that you're going to be judged about, you're in a lot of wake-up call. You're in for a big wake-up call. Let me go into another bit of detail here. The Lord's Prayer. The one and only prayer that Christ had to preach, right? The one and only prayer that he gave, you would think would be a pretty important thing, right? That maybe people should understand the things that it has to say, right? I mean, to me, that's how my mind works. You would think that the one prayer that he gave for everybody to pray is probably the most important thing to understand. Okay? People don't. Because listen, here's what it has to say, okay? And this is really important. So if you're a Christian and you're really wanting to understand where God's coming from and what you're in store for, here's where it's time to really pay attention to what I was having to say. Okay? Okay. The Lord's Prayer says, essentially, depending on the translation, but essentially it's lead us not into temptation and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Okay? Translations are a little bit different, but that's what it boils down to, right? Right. Now, catch the words. Forgive us our trespasses, our sins, as we forgive those who trespass or sin against us, as we do it. In other words, according to the original texts, the words that are there are, you are going to be forgiven by God in the exact same way that you forgive others, yourself. So how you treat others is how God's going to treat you when it comes to this whole forgiveness stuff. You see what I mean? That's what people don't understand. That's a problem. That's a big problem. Exactly. It's God's job to judge, not Karen. God's the one that's the judge. He's the ultimate judge, right? So, again, that little bit of that Lord's Prayer is probably the most important thing to understand when it comes to what the relationship with God needs to be like, and yet nobody catches it. Nobody catches it. Forgive us our sins in the same way that we forgive others. If I'm not being forgiving to somebody, then I'm not going to be forgiven. You see what I mean? Or if my forgiveness has a but attached to it, I forgive you, but, then any forgiveness I receive is going to have that I forgive you, but along with it. Does that make sense? I hope all that makes sense. I hope all that's clear, because that's really important to understand, you know? That is like super important, and something that, like, when I talk about this kind of stuff, like when I talked about this stuff on the radio shows, for instance, people got pissed off at me, you know? But I'm just pointing out the exact things that it has to say. Like, point out where I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Tell me where I'm wrong. But you do it from that same context of where I have gone through every bit of the words that are there, right? I've got a deep understanding of what it is. Look, I'm going to put it to you this way. Since I have been no longer a professing Christian, I think I understand the perspective of Christ a lot better since then. You know what I mean? Like, I get it now compared to what I did back then. There are things in our lives that we do that affect other people in ways that we don't really understand, you know? I'll give you another perfect example of like a blatant mistranslation that's done, so that you can get an idea of like really the big lie that comes with the religion. Okay. You guys know Christmas. You know, everybody knows Christmas. Christmas is a big deal, right? And all of the stories of Christmas and blah, 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 blah. Everybody knows. I mean, there's, you know, literally a quarter of the population of humanity is Christian. Everybody understands what Christmas is. Okay. So with Christmas and the Christmas story, you have the story of the angel that comes down and announces about Christ being born and so on and so forth, right? And in every time that you hear Christmas, right? Every time that you think about Christmas, you always think about, you know, peace on earth and goodwill to men, right? Right? Am I wrong? Peace on earth and goodwill to men. That's the big thing that everybody always says. That's what Christmas is all about. Peace on earth and goodwill to men. Right? That's what the book says too. Right? Or does it? So the King James Version is the biggest prevalent version of the Bible out there. And by the way, King James was very, very gay. Did you know that? King James was very, very gay. And the only reason why he paid for a translation of the Bible put into his name is because he did not want the church excommunicating him for being gay. He did not want to be kicked out or executed for being gay. So let's make this translation of the Bible. It's going to be the King James Bible. Yeah, this is wonderful. Yay, great PR move. That was all it is. It's a PR move. Public relations. It's all it is. Right? But the guy was a super, super gay guy. Super gay. Not many Christians realize that, by the way. I like to point that out because it's like they're always all the gay bashing, right? Okay, well, you know that the King James Bible that you're reading that verse in, the guy was very gay. He was as gay as it comes, okay? He was flaming gay. All right, anyway, moving away from that, back to the peace on earth and goodwill to men. In the original texts, what it says is peace on earth to men of goodwill. Holy crap, that's a lot different. But the original text, the original thing, says peace on earth to men of goodwill. Not peace on earth and goodwill to men. That's a mistranslation. It's a big difference between the two, isn't it? A big difference between the two. Y'all got me on religion, man. Damn it. It's controversial. I know it is. It's controversial, but this is what it really is, you know? And again, like the big problem is that people just don't know because they don't look into it for them damn selves. And it really ticks me off. You know, if you're going to be a thing, be the thing wholeheartedly. Be it all the way or nothing. Because quite frankly, that's what the texts say too. Be it all the way or nothing. Very big difference. Yes. And it has a whole different context, a whole different meaning to it when you look at peace on earth to men of goodwill, or peace on earth and goodwill to men. It doesn't seem like it's much, but man, it really is. So going back to the reason why I brought out the pornography, I got distracted, right? You guys distracted me. I got distracted. Going back to the pornography thing. So, of course, all the Christians and everything like that, they're all against pornography for one reason or another, you know, and I'm not going to bash anybody that doesn't like it. I'm not going to bash anybody that's against it or whatever the case may be, but let people live their lives. You know, there are, I won't say that there's not like human trafficking and all that kind of stuff that goes on with it. Believe me, there is absolutely 100%. There is that kind of thing that occurs, but it's not everything, right? It's like a very, very small percentage of what's out there. You know, you go to Pornhub and most of it is just a couple of people that are trying to have fun with each other, and they're complete amateurs, you know, trying to make a buck or whatever, you know. The human trafficking, as far as like the really publicly available pornography is concerned, it's not really a thing. You find that kind of stuff more prevalently like on the dark web and on the more dark websites, I guess you could say. Anyways, one of the things that people say is that, you know, pornography is anti-biblical and all that kind of stuff, because it talks about pornography and fornication. So, the original context of pornography comes from the Greek word porneia. Porneia, the meaning behind it has to do with, again, context being key, has to do with a practice that was taking place during the time where that bit of articles in Corinthians, if I remember correctly, was written. The practice of porneia had to do with a person. Okay, so remember, during that day and age, there was a lot more like temples and gods and all that kind of stuff that was going on, right? We had God for everything, you know, literally a God for everything. So one of the god and goddesses that was around during that time had to do with fertility practices, had to do with fertility rituals. So they would do things to like rituals to improve the harvests, or to improve like the fertility of a family, to make the family members more, you know, having more kids and all that kind of stuff, right? The practice of porneia was that a person, male or female, but let's go with a guy, right? Just for sake of example, let's say that a guy goes to the temple of the fertility goddess. He would go to the fertility temple and he would have sex with one of the priests or priestesses to allow him to orgasm. And that orgasm would then be used in a ritual to improve the fertility of whatever it is that he was wanting. So the fields or his family and all that kind of stuff, right? That ritual practice was called porneia. So it doesn't have anything to do with two people getting together in front of a camera and bumping uglies and then putting it out on the internet. It has absolutely nothing to do with that. It has to do with the ritual practice of sex magic to make the fertility of the fields more. That's what was being talked about in those articles that Paul was writing. You see what I mean? Like, completely different perspective, completely different thing, right? Another aspect of things is that a guy getting together with multiple mates was not necessarily frowned upon in society during that period of time, including Christianity, because it was not like adultery was not considered going out and having sex with another woman. For example, again, taking a guy's perspective, because I'm a guy, it's not considered going out and having sex with another woman. It's considered going out and having sex with another woman without your wife's permission. That's adultery. Big difference, right? So again, like in perspective of religious studies, context is key. You've got to understand again that all of these things were written for a specific people in a specific time and a specific place. And if you try to shoehorn it in to your life or your modern society or whatever you happen to be living in, it's very difficult to do. It wasn't necessarily intended for that to begin with, because it was written for a specific people or a set of people or a person. You see what I mean? So I hope all of this makes sense, and I hope I haven't like pissed everybody off or whatever. You know, I'm not here to like get people upset. I'm here to help to educate people, you know, because again, this is the stuff that I discovered, and it's one of the reasons why I didn't end up becoming a full-on preacher. I mean, like I said, I was ordained, right? But I'm not out preaching in the streets, and I'm not out, you know, because I mean, me standing on a street corner preaching this kind of stuff, I mean, they're coming at me with torches and hammers. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not talked about. Right. Exactly. And again, like your average person, your average Brenda going to church and stuff like that, all that they do is just listen to what the preacher says. They don't look into it for themselves, and they don't have a clue what it really means or what it really means for their life or how to apply it to their life, because the preacher is just preaching the same thing that he was taught and that he was taught and that he was taught. You see what I mean? Like, it's a snowball effect. It really is. I mean, quite frankly, most of the biblical texts are only there because a certain group of people, the Catholic Church, during that period of time, during the Council of Nicaea and other councils that took place, decided that these were the books that were going to apply to everything, and they discarded the rest. There were hundreds and hundreds of texts that were around during those days, each of them teaching a different thing. You can look into things like the Gnostic texts, which talk about completely different things, and yet that was just as prevalent during that period of time. The knowledge that was there with these texts was just as prevalent as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You see what I mean? The book of Mary is something completely different. Hell, we can get on Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene wasn't the whore that everybody's taught. No, she absolutely was not. She was the bride of Jesus. That wedding ceremony that Jesus, you know, the whole turning water into wine and all that kind of stuff, that was his marriage ceremony, by the way. Didn't know that, did you? No, because that's not what's taught. People think that it's something else, but in reality, the context, again, context being key, understanding the culture of the people that you're reading about is key to understanding the truth of the stories, right? So the marriage ceremony that Jesus was partaking in during that period of time, right? The whole story of the water turning into wine and all that kind of stuff, right? Was his marriage. It was his wedding ceremony, because during that period of time, the host was the groom. It wasn't his family. It was the groom. Had to pay for the meals, had to pay for the wine, had to pay for everybody to have a good time. So at his wedding ceremony, they ran out of wine. So what did he do? He turned the water into wine. The fact that he was the one that did that is proof positive that this wedding was his wedding. Well, who did he get married to? He got married to the one person who followed him for the rest of his life, Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene, by the way, was the one that he was going to found the church upon. She was the one that was meant to carry everything forward from him. And if you read the texts, you'll see that that's there, but it's not talked about because Mary was a whore, according to what modern people have spun with it. Because you can't Hey potatoes, how you doing? We're having a bit of a religious discussion right now, so hopefully I won't piss anybody off, but welcome. I hope you're having a good night. So where was I? Okay. The fact that Mary Magdalene has been spun into being this prostitute whore figure was actually done as a very deliberate attack upon her as a person to allow the church to become what it ended up becoming by having Paul and Peter be the more involved people. Okay. Mary Magdalene was meant to be the sacred feminine. So what they did to twist things, and this is like a really long discussion, by the way, guys. I'm sorry, but what the church twisted with it is that Mary the mother is the sacred feminine. Okay. While Mary Magdalene was cast aside as a prostitute, when in reality, the intention of Christ was for Mary Magdalene to carry everything forward. She was supposed to be the apostle prime, the one to carry the torch for everybody else, not Peter. Not Peter. Mary. So by making Mary Immaculata, the mother of Mary, the sacred feminine in Christ's life, it really is a detriment, because in a man's life, again, context being key, in context being key, in a man's life, what is there? It's not his mother, it's his wife, right? Man, wife, child. Man, wife, child. All of evolution, all of everything, generationally speaking, is not a man being together with his mother forever. It's about a man casting away his mother and being with his wife. So why, please tell me, why, in any kind of sense, the sacred feminine would be considered to be his mother? No, it'd be his wife. You see what I mean? Yes, absolutely. Closest confidant. Yeah. Not only his closest confidant, but it was his wife. And it was she that was present for every bit of preaching that he ever did. If you like, a lot of it has been eliminated from the text that we currently have, right? The Bible as it stands, right? It's been eliminated a lot. They've twisted things around a lot, but it's still there. If you really, read between the lines, catch the stuff that's there. She's there in every aspect, you see, because she, again, was the one that was meant to be taking the torch forward. Not Peter, not anybody else, her. So the church being, this is where misogyny starts to take place, by the way, guys. This is where the misogyny really starts to kick in. The church, the leaders of the church during that period of time, around 300 BC or 300 AD, sorry. did everything that they could to twist things around so that it was all about the men, not the women, because, oh my God, we can't have the sacred feminine being involved in this in any kind of way. That's why they went with the texts that are there, not with the Gnostic texts, because the Gnostic texts talk about the fact that the sacred feminine is just as important as the sacred masculine. You see what I mean? Oh, absolutely, they had a child. They absolutely did. 100%. If you look into like the history of Mary Magdalene, what you'll find is that Mary Magdalene, after Christ was crucified, actually escaped from that area because of the persecution that began, because she was being cast aside already by those who were jealous. She escaped from that area and she fled to Egypt first, and then actually ended up making her way up to France, the area up around France. There's actually a burial chamber for her in France. And actually one of the things that started the Crusades was people trying to find her body, her tomb, so that it could be destroyed. Because again, the sacred feminine cannot be Mary Magdalene, according to them. Potatoes, that sounds like a heck of a job, man. I wish you the best of luck with it. I had shop class way back in the day. I could probably do a little bit of things here and there, but doing it with modern cars and stuff like that would be a little bit more difficult on me, I think. Well, regardless of the fact that I can't see it very well, but so much has changed over the past like 30 years plus. I don't know how well I'd be able to manage it at this point in time. Anyways, my point with all of this stuff really is that I want people to be encouraged that if they're going to be a religious person, that they be it wholeheartedly. And the only way that you can be it wholeheartedly is to actually study everything for yourself. And that includes going into the original language of it all, figuring out what was being said, what's being talked about, what's here. And you would think, like, one of the things that the texts say is that we all work out our salvation with fear and trembling, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. If you are concerned about your eternal soul, you would probably be very well off researching and reading every little detail, including all of the context involved in the texts, to understand how it's going to affect you. You see what I mean? I'm not a religious person. Not anymore. I used to be very hyper religious. I learned everything possible that I could about it, right? Within my means. And I decided that my best thing that I could do was basically to walk away from it, because there were so many things that people, like that the church, the modern church today, is doing absolutely against what the texts originally say. I'll give you another perfect example of problematic things. If you were to take Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John and try to synthesize them together into one coherent story, one thing after the other, you can't do it. You cannot do it and have it make any sense at all. It's impossible to do. The stories are very contradictory to each other in so many places that if you were to try to tell it as one story, it can't happen. And yet you would think, that if this was like a thing and real and all of that kind of stuff, that they would have some kind of cohesion, but they don't. They don't. The Old Testament is also very problematic at best, because much of it was written, in some cases, 1,000 years plus after the actual events took place. And it's all hand-me-down stories or literally made up on the fly. the biblical texts that existed, at least allegedly existed, previous, were all lost. And at one stage in time, during approximately 500 BC, the Hebrews were taken captive by the Babylonians, and all of their history, all of their texts, all of the everything were lost. So one person who was a Hebrew ended up becoming prevalent in the society and wanted to try to recreate what they understood at that time as being, the text that they're supposed to be following, and so on and so forth. So Jeremiah, basically created the Torah and everything during that period of time. Created all of the texts that would then become or lead up into the Old Testament and stuff. So, and before that, much of everything was done orally. And so he was trying to do his best to synthesize all of the information that he could get hold of to put it into, again, a coherent kind of a text, right? But again, that's problematic, right? That's problematic at best. So, yeah, when it comes to the whole religious stuff, it's very, it's okay. Let me give you another example. This is where this part right here is probably where I started to have one of the biggest questions begin. Okay. And again, I'm probably going to tick people off. Okay. And if I do, please understand it's not my intention to make you angry. It's not my intention to make you angry. It's my intention to make you think and to help you to realize that the things that you might have taken at face value may not actually be the reality.
Hallelujah! Holy shit! Where's the Tylenol?
So let's take one of the biggest stories that people focus on as a matter of faith. Okay? This is like one of the big faith stories about Abraham. Abraham at one point in time was told by God that he needed to sacrifice his son as an act of faith. His son Isaac. Okay? Now, he took Isaac up to the mountain, brought the knife up, was bringing it down, and suddenly God said, no, that's fine. You don't have to do it. But here's a lamb caught in the bushes, and you can go ahead and grab that, and you can sacrifice that to me. Go ahead and burn that thing, and that'll be acceptable. Okay. Here's where the problem comes in with this, okay? And I'm just have an open mind with me for a moment. Have an open mind with me for a moment. If I was to come to you and say, hey, potatoes, hey, Tina, last night, God spoke to me, and he told me that I needed to do something. You'd probably be like, okay, well, God talked to you. Go on. Yeah, he told me that I need to sacrifice my son. I need to take my son up to the mountain and stab him in the chest with a knife. And I'm going to go ahead and do it. Now, would you tell me, oh, you were touched by God. You need to totally do that. Go, run, flee, run up there and do it right now. Oh, what an act of faith and what a show of faith this is going to be. Amazing. Oh, praise Jesus. Or are you going to be like backing away and calling the cops because you're dealing with a crazy person? You know, I mean, like, maybe during that period of time, hearing that kind of a story and accepting it as a matter of faith was acceptable. But you take that same story and you put it into right here, right now, I think you'd actually begin to understand that there are perhaps issues, a few issues going on with this, right? That really should be looked at from a different perspective. And that's what kind of led me into the beginnings, the foundations of my issues with the religion as it stood, you know? Because that whole thing, like that whole Abraham Isaac story, is still retold today as, look at this matter of faith that this man had. Okay. But if I was to do the same thing, you would think I'm batshit crazy and should be thrown into jail or an insane asylum or something because I'm going to kill my kid. Do you see what I mean? Like, there's a problem with that being the exemplar of faith. There, I think, are better examples that could be used for it all. You see what I mean? Anyway, I need to run real quick and take a bio break. I will be right back with you guys. Please be patient. I apologize that I need to make this run, but I will return momentarily. Thank you. Talk amongst yourselves. Talk amongst yourselves. Go ahead. It's okay. Nobody's going to be judgmental here. Talk about whatever's on your mind. It's okay. You may very well be correct there, Tina. You may very well be correct. It could have been an angel too, Ollie, that caused the issues to stop. Sorry, I need to get myself comfortable here again. But the things that come to my mind when it comes to like the thoughts of the devil and all that kind of stuff is what really is the devil, because there are problems with that little bit of context stuff too. Okay, that I can get into here in just a moment. So, So if you don't mind talking about it, Tina, what experience did you have? See, like I said, now if there are things that happen, right? I'm not an atheist. I'm agnostic at best, right? But I understand that there are things outside of ourselves. I understand that there is probably a God or multiple gods or whatever, but it's the universe itself, right? I'm of the belief that the universe itself is ever going, ever continuous, and that it is what God is. But we're not meant to like worship it or anything like that. Mainly because, listen, and I'm gonna put it to you this way, okay? Because let's just say that the story of the Christianity thing is a reality. Like that's what it needs to be, right? Okay. If God, according to the Christians, is as he is, all-knowing, all-powerful, the ultimate justice, the ultimate love, the ultimate everything, right? If he is the ultimate justice, right, the ultimate epitome of what is justice, according to Christianity, that's what it's supposed to be, right? Then we also take that if we make failures in our life, according to Christianity, we don't accept Jesus in our hearts, which is also not, by the way that it's supposed to be, according to the texts themselves. Accepting Jesus into your heart is not a thing. Okay. I can go into that at some point too. But again, taking that if we fail to do X thing, that we're all cast into hell for all of eternity, never ending, always burning, never, ultimate punishment, never ending, never stopping, blah, 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 all the stuff, right? If that was the case, then God has failed because none of us are inborn with the knowledge that that's how it's supposed to be. And if he's the ultimate exemplar of justice, it is not just in any way for a child to be born into the world and not have this knowledge inherently understood within them, that if they go against what X thing is, that they would then be suffering eternal punishment. There is no justice in that in any way, shape, or form. Therefore, the whole thing has no basis in reality. You see what I mean? Like it can't be both. It can't be that God is supposed to be the ultimate exemplar of justice and not have inborn into you the knowledge that this is what you're supposed to do in order to avoid eternal punishment in a place of suffering. There's no justice in that. So it's anti-God. In other words, God is actually against himself in that kind of a situation. Does that make sense? I hope that does. Like, there's a problem, inherently with it. You see what I mean? Going back to what you were saying there, Ollie. Yeah, it may very well have been an angel. I mean, I know other beings do exist. I can give you an example of my own life. Like, I was very young, and there was a park that was across the street from where we lived. I went to run across the street to go to the park. My parents were standing outside talking to some people, and a car was barreling down the road, and it was going to hit me. And just before it hit me, there was a flash of light, and I was thrown backwards into the waiting arms of my mom, who was just opening her mouth to scream about the fact that I was getting hit by the car. And they swore that I was hit by the car. But no, the car never touched me. Something literally picked me up and threw me backwards into her waiting arms. What was it? I don't know, but I think that it was an angel of some kind. You see what I mean? There are things that exist that are outside of ourselves that we maybe don't understand, right? And I'm not denying that there may be a god or multiple gods, right? But I don't think that we're inherently intended to worship them or required to worship them, because again, if we were, I shouldn't have to listen to some Joe Schmo, like if I've lived on a mountain my whole life, right? And have never heard anything about the Bible or anything along those lines, you know what I mean? And some Joe Schmo comes up to me and tells me this stuff is what has been required, and if not, I'm already doomed to burn in hell if I don't accept him right now. You know what I mean? Then if I was to die before that guy would have ever appeared, then according to them, I'm supposed to be burning in hell, right? Well, that's kind of a problem, right? Because if we're inherently supposed to be understanding that we need to be worshiping these beings that are outside of ourselves, then we should be inborn with that knowledge that those beings are there and that we're supposed to worship them as a requirement. You see what I mean? To do otherwise, again, is not justice, and they're not worthy of being worshipped. Quite frankly, they're not worthy of it, if that's the case. You have thoughts about the devil? Yeah, I can definitely go into that one here in a minute. So let's go into the devil here, okay? Okay. See, and that's what you've been taught, Tina. That's what you've been taught. That's what preachers say, but that is not what the texts have to say in any way, shape, or form. Not what the texts have to say in any. It is nowhere biblically that is the case. Nowhere. Okay. And again, you can do your own research and figure it out, but there is nowhere textually speaking that is what it is. What it does say, however, is that people that have never heard the word will be judged based upon their own conscience. Ah, you didn't hear that, did you? No. The savages that my people were, quote unquote, had to be saved from hell, but in fact would have been judged based upon their conscience that's born inside of them as they're raised up. You see what I mean? That's what the texts actually have to say. But nobody's taught that. Right. But again, take the example. 150 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, when manifest destiny was a thing and all these white people were coming from across the ocean, destroying my people, one after the other, literally killing hundreds of millions of people. Okay. You cannot tell me that was because they were doing us good. You know what I mean? No, they were doing it because they felt that was their manifest destiny, that they belonged here, that they owned it, just based upon the idea that they were the better beings. You see what I mean? But in fact, like I said, the texts, the biblical texts state that those who have never been exposed are still exposed in a way, because they're then judged by God based upon the things that they have done for or against their own conscience. But that's never talked about. That's never taught. So let me go into the devil thing before I chase everybody else away with everything that I've been saying. And like I said, I'm not trying to hurt anybody. Please don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. Go do your own research. Go learn the texts for yourselves, study them, research them, figure it out, because this is what you're supposed to do. You come to your salvation through your own fear and trembling. Okay. That's what it all has to say. Okay. Many evils have been committed in the name of God. Yes, absolutely. Doesn't necessarily mean that God had involvement with it, but it was in the name of God. The devil, the idea of the devil, was started to it was beginning to formulate during the Roman era. Okay. The Holy Roman era. Again, going with what the texts themselves have to say. Okay. Everything else does not matter what you've heard, what you've thought, what you've been taught. None of it matters. What matters is what the text itself says. Right? Okay. Making sure that that's clear. That's the only thing that ultimately matters. Because if it's the word of God, then this is what it needs to be. Right? So, the concept of the devil was born out of the concept of Hashatan, which then gets translated into Satan, right? Hashatan. Hashatan means nothing more than the adversary. The Shaitan, adversary. That's the Hebrew words. Okay? Hashatan is simply a reference for somebody that is standing in opposition for whatever you are doing in that moment in time. And even God himself was referred to as Hashatan in the original texts. By the way, anything or anybody that's standing in opposition of whatever it is that you're trying to do in that moment in time is considered to be the adversary to you, Hashatan. Now, as the years have progressed, that phrase, Hashatan, has taken on a persona, a personification. It's been given a status as a person or a personage. But that's not what it ever was to begin with. This is nothing more than a fiction, a fictive, right? It's no different than Bruce Willis on Die Hard playing the part of John McClane. Okay. John McClane is no different than Satan in terms of reality. Okay. And like I said, even God himself was referred to as the Satan or Hashatan, the adversary in the texts because he stood in opposition of somebody. You see what I mean? Progressing forward as well, in the year 400 or so AD, there was a priest named Jerome, another Jerome Jeremiah person, by the way. Interesting little duality going on with this little thing. Jerome was very good with languages, and he was approached by the leaders of the church to create a new version of the Bible that would be used by everybody, because up until that point in time, there were a lot of different translations that were going on. Okay. So what the church wanted to do was to make the ultimate Bible that would be called the Latin Vulgate. So it was the Hebrew text, the Aramaic text, and the Greek text translated into Latin, which was used by the church at that time as its primary ritualistic and mass texts. Okay. The people themselves, by the way, did not speak Latin very prevalently unless they were from Rome, from the Roman Empire themselves. But this was during the time where the Roman Empire was beginning to crumble apart in a big way, and the Holy Roman Empire came into fruition. The Catholic Church is nothing more than the Roman Empire given a modern status and never ending. That was its whole purpose of creation. Okay. Anyways, Jerome, in his wisdom, came up with this Latin Vulgate translation of the Bible that could then be used by future people as the basis of teaching and preaching. Okay. But in one section of things, there's a big problem. That one section is in Isaiah. And if I remember correctly, it's Isaiah 18. It's either 18 or 38, one of the two. Somewhere. Isaiah. Sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. I can't remember it exactly. But this verse in Isaiah refers to basically something referred to as the morning star, as a descriptor. Okay, in the original texts, it's referred to as a descriptor. In other words, it's a description of a person, not a name. But when Jerome translated it, he translated it using, for whatever reason, whether it was by accident or on purpose, but I assume accident. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume by accident, because he didn't know what he was doing, right? But there was a lot of text to translate. But he gave it a personal pronoun status in the text, in the translation. So the words that he put into Latin was Luciferon, which means the light bringer. Okay. The same words, by the way, were used later in the Bible to refer to Christ, but were not given that check mark to be capitalized as a personal name. It's in 1 Peter, where Christ is referred to as the morning star. The exact same word was used in the Isaiah text, but there it was given this personalized form. Okay. If you read the Isaiah text surrounding it, again, context being key. If you read the text surrounding this Luciferon or Lucifer word, you will see that it blatantly talks about a man. It's in fact talking about the king of Babylon, who was holding the Hebrews in captivity at that moment in time. But it's very distinctly, very distinctly talking about a real, breathing human being alive in that moment in time, and that Isaiah was cursing. But as the years have progressed, this Lucifer pronoun personification thing that is there in Isaiah has actually taken on a personal status. And so now we have Lucifer, Satan, the devil. Oh my. But none of these words meant anything like what people frickin' imagine when they were there. In the days when these words were written down, none of them had any concept of any being in any kind of way that had anything to do with what we imagine it is today. Nothing. Not one little bit. In fact, if you were to talk to the average Hebrew during that period of time and say there's a being that stands against God and he's in opposition and he's going to destroy God and blah, 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 all the stuff that comes along, they would curse you to the grave, because nothing can stand against God in any kind of way. Nothing ever happens without God saying it's going to happen. No being, no person, no anything is ever going to stand against what God has to say. O morning star, how thou hast fallen. That little phraseology in Isaiah has become an angel of darkness that can appear before men and cause all kinds of issues and twist your mind and twist your brain and blah, 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 blah. Look, the devil has been taking the brunt, the blame of the stupidity and absolutely abject, horrific things that human beings have been doing for thousands of years. And it's about time that we actually acknowledge that it's human beings that have been doing it, not some devil twisting your mind to make you do it. The devil didn't make you do it. You did it. You see what I mean? Like, it's a way for us to to come to a way to justify the things that we do because, oh, I was tempted by Satan and he made me do it. No, it was your own freaking decision that made you do the things that you did. Devil had nothing to do with it. The devil doesn't even exist. Never did. Never did. It's all about us as human beings taking something that we heard and playing a big game of telephone with it and have created this big devil being that stands against God and, oh, he's going against God and we must stand against him and blah, 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 blah. All the stuff that goes with it. Not one little bit of it has any legitimacy in the texts whatsoever. Not one. Not one little bit. You guys have got me on a tangent tonight. And again, Ira sees his viewers go. But I want you to prove me wrong. I do. I want you to prove me wrong. I want you guys to take this information that I've given you tonight, run with it, see what you can find, do legitimate research yourself, because if this stuff means anything to you, if this stuff means anything to the salvation of your soul, then you're going to need to know it 100% through and through, whatever it takes. So do it. Prove me wrong. Okay? That's all I want people to do. Prove me wrong, please. And do it by doing the same amount of research, the same amount of studies, the same amount of energy that I've put into learning this stuff. I want you to do the same thing and come at me again telling me that I'm not right. Okay? Okay. So with all of that, how's everybody doing? How are you guys doing? For those of you guys just showing up, I don't know if I saw a couple of people coming in and out, but my name is Ira. I am Blind Dad Does. Tonight we're just talking about whatever comes to mind, and I guess we've gotten on this like religious tangent for about an hour now, and if people are sick of hearing it, that's okay. I'm sorry. I apologize if I've gotten myself onto a bit of a rant and stuff, but I haven't talked about this stuff since I did the shows, and it's been a little while. So, I mean, it is fun. Yeah, it's fun. Like these are the things that I'll point out to people. Cause look, I don't have a problem with people being religious. You know what I mean? If you're using the religion to make yourself a better person and you're trying to improve the world around you, God love you. Please keep it up. We need more people like you. You know, but if you're using it in a way that's causing harm to people, if you're using it to stand against people or to make people feel worse about themselves, then I'm going to point you exactly where you're wrong. You know what I mean? And I'll use your texts against you because I know them. I guarantee you, I know them better than you do. You know what I mean? Like, and again, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. You know, people have this concept of the whole rapture thing. That's never anywhere in any of the texts at all. That was created in the 1800s by a man who at that time ran the Church of God. And he came up with this idea of the rapture as a good way to make money. And it's just snowballed from there into what we see it being today. But there's nothing textually speaking about anything along those lines. Nothing. And people have like come up with some really, really weird theories surrounding it, you know, but in reality, 1800s is when it was created. That nobody had a concept of it in any way, shape, or form in the thousands of years previous to it. Just all of a sudden out of nowhere, this guy from the Church of God came up with it. I do hope everybody's having a fun time tonight, though. You know, really, I do. And if I've chased anybody away, I hope you understand that the reason why I say the things that I do and why I'm talking about the things that I am in the text in the context that I am, is because I am doing it out of a place of love. I'm concerned. You know, I'm concerned that if people are going to be a religious thing and they're going to use it to find their salvation, they really need to have an understanding of what's there. Be the whole thing or be nothing. And you can't be the whole thing without knowing what the whole thing is, right? So the concept of Mary Magdalene, you know, is such a big one that has been spun into this weird, twisted story when in fact it was actually one of the most beautiful things that you could ever hear in the originals. And yet now Mary Magdalene is a whore. No, she wasn't. She never was. She never was. That's men putting that story on her so that people would turn away from her. It's actually heartbreaking. It really is. You know, here's this woman who could have given so much to humanity because she was there in every moment of the Savior's life. Every moment. She touched him. She felt him. She knew him intimately. She knew everything about him. And just imagine what kind of thing the world would be today if she was the one that was the focus, not Peter, not Paul. You see what I mean? Yeah, in the originals, it was a beautiful love story because it was the story of a human being. It was the story of a man. Yes, he may have been God too, right? But it was the story of a man discovering and becoming the, like, again, okay. He was the ultimate human being, right? The ultimate human being. You know, and yet the story that we get is that his ever virgin mother is the one that we're supposed to be focused on, or the one that was the holy one, and so on and so forth. And you just, and yet you tell like your average Catholic, for instance, that Mary, the mother, had multiple kids, and they will like burn you for it, right? But look, right in the biblical text itself, James, the brother of Jesus, right? There's one of his books is right there. And the brother of Jesus, by the way, also teaches that works are what saves you, not by any kind of faith. Works are what save you. The brother of this guy, right? So that's where one of the contradictions come in, because in one section of the text, it tells you that works are what gets you into heaven. And the other section of the text, it says that faith gets you into heaven. Well, which one is it then, Joe? Which one is it? Because it can't be both, right? Do you realize, I mean, it's things like that, right? It's things like that that makes it so that there are, and I kid you not, again, do the research. There are right now over 54,000 different denominations of Christianity, and every one of them thinks that they're right and that the rest are wrong and going to hell. And most of it's just because there's one word different or something along those lines. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, the text talks about his brothers. Exactly. But you tell the average Catholic person that Christ had brothers and that Mary had other kids, and they'll shoot, 100 years ago, they would have stoned you down to the grave, you know? People get really, you know, and so like one of the things that I listed as topics tonight was, you know, mental illness and mental health and all that kind of stuff. People get really mentally ill when it comes to about religion. Like, you know, the problem is that there's this thing called cognitive dissonance. Okay. Once you have attached an emotion to a thing, it is very difficult for you to think critically or logically about that thing. It's just the way our brains work. It's the way our minds work. So because the subject of religion is such an emotional touchstone for people, it's very difficult for them to have a critical or logical thought about their religion. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, right? I'm not bashing them or anything along those lines for it, but I understand how the psychology of humans work, knowing that once you've got this emotional attachment to X thing, you can't think critically or logically about X thing again. It's just not going to happen. So in my case, I have a difficult time thinking critically and logically about X thing, religion, because I was hyper religious, you see. And so I've kind of gone the way of, I've seen this happen in a lot of other people, and I've seen it happen in myself. Like if you were raised religious and you have turned away from it, you tend to run as far opposite of it as you can. And a lot of people go atheist. In my case, I did not. I went agnostic at best, right? I do understand that there's something out there. I do. I've touched it. I've felt it. I know. But what that thing is, I don't know. And it's certainly not what we see in the Bible. It's certainly not what we see in the Quran. It's certainly not in what we see in the Torah, right? It's not in any text, because if it was meant to be something that we're supposed to know and understand and worship and all of that kind of stuff, it would be there within us. I think that we human beings are all droplets of the consciousness of God, experiencing everything that it's possible to experience to expand itself further. That's what it comes down to. That's my belief at this point in time. That's what I've touched. You see what I mean? And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And if I do one day stand before the Christian God, and it's in judgment, and he asks me the questions of why did I turn away, and why did I do this, and why did I do that, I will state to him factually, why was I not inborn with the inherent knowledge that this is the way that things are supposed to be? If you're a just person, if you're a just God, then that would have been the case. And if I do get sent to hell, then I'll go knowing that justice that I was promised was nothing more than a carrot on a stick. You see what I mean? I hope that all that makes sense. Gonna grab a drink here real quick. It's been a little while. Must hydrate. Anyway, I hope everybody is having a good night. Again, I'm just doing all this just because this is the topic that ended up coming up, and I've been on a tangent ever since. You guys can't get me started on religion and not expect me to go on with it for a little while, because there's so much that's wrapped up in it that people get confused about, that people don't understand, that there's a lot to unwrap. It's a big box that really needs to have some unwrapping done to it. And without going into more detail about things, I think it's disingenuous if I have the knowledge of this kind of stuff, right? If I have the knowledge of everything, it would be disingenuous for me to just say Christianity is wrong, right? Without going into the details of why. It's kind of my job that I've put upon myself to be to feel like I need to spread the knowledge that I have gained, because I want to help people. I do. I want to help people. I'm doing it out of a position of love. I do. I love you guys. I do. Absolutely love you guys. And I want you guys to have the best lives and the best afterlives that you can get. I'm one of those weird people. I've been able to see spirits. I've been able to talk to spirits. And so I know that there is something else. There's something outside of this existence that we currently have. What that is, I can't say for sure, and I don't think that we're meant to know until we get there. That's really what it comes down to. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts with all of this? And if you want to change the topic, let's go on to a different topic. But, what'd you guys have for dinner? We had tacos, and they were pretty good. Jolene and Seth, my son, ended up making some tacos, and they were really tasty. I'm kind of getting hungry for another taco here, but they did a good job with them. Very nicely done. Some nice meat with beans mixed in, and tomatoes and onions and all that kind of stuff. It was very good. It was very good. I can eat tacos like all day long. They're my thing. I love them. What'd you have for dinner, Ollie? I know you're still there. Are you still drawing your furries? As I've been doing all this, have they become twisted by my strange words that I am displaying to you? You had tacos too. Well, that's very convenient, isn't it? Posting your commission info places or into places? Just making sure of which direction you were going with that. But that's cool. That's cool. So was the furry thing that you were making, was that a commission piece that you ended up getting? Shepherd's pie with cornbread. Oh God, Tina, I love shepherd's pie. Oh, I love shepherd's pie. Jolene makes a really good one. Like she does it in a crock pot, mixing in like ground beef that she cooks up, like browns up the beef and then puts that in the bottom of the pan or the crock pot, and then like adds like green beans and carrots and huge piles of mashed potatoes and just, oh gosh, it is so good. She does a really good job. Like mixes in like mushroom soup and that kind of stuff with it. Oh, I need to have her make it sometime. Now I'm drooling. Great. Now I'm going to drool all over my microphone and it's going to shock me and it's going to electrocute me. You guys are going to see me die right here on the screen. Are you happy now? Just practicing. That's cool. That's cool. And cornbread is my doom. Like, as a diabetic person, I love cornbread, but man, it is definitely a killer for me. Clickbait. You're doing commission pieces with clickbait. Is that what it is? Lots of cheese on top. See, I've never done cheese with shepherd's pie. That might be pretty interesting. Which kind of cheese do you use with it? Just out of curiosity. Oh, my dying is clickbait. Well, yeah, if I die right here on the stream, like Ollie, that would kind of probably be the ultimate thing for me. I expected fully that I was going to die years ago when I was doing the radio shows. I would get like so blah. Shepherd's pie with cheese. Yeah, you mentioned cheese. Cheese is Ollie's downfall. Like, I know that for sure. Like, if Ollie could get by eating nothing but cheese and mashed potatoes, they would. Like, absolutely, 100%. They would just be like, yep, I'm gonna die right here, covered in mashed potatoes, covered in mashed potatoes and cheese. Although you don't like cheddar, do you? Cheddar's the one cheese that you don't care for, which is weird because cheddar is like one of the most popular cheeses in the world, right? Of course, you got to go like opposite of what's norm. Shredded cheddar. Nice. I'll have to try it with some cheddar cheese. Like, legitimately, I've never tried shepherd's pie with cheese, and now you've got me curious as to how it would work. I've never thought about doing cheese on it. So, like cheddar if it's mixed with other stuff. Cheddar is probably one of my favorites. Like, I love a good cheddar cheese, but it's got to be like super sharp. That very tangy kind of cheddar cheese. If it's the mild, I don't care for it. It tastes a little bit too much like American for me, and I don't like American cheese. Even though it's like, I mean, every burger you get, it's basically American cheese and so on and so forth. I don't really care for it too much. One of my favorites though is, funnily enough, there's a gas station that's nearby where I live here. And, they sell like deli products at this gas station. I know it sounds weird, but they do. And they do a good job, actually. They make, really nice sandwiches and like deli meats and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things they do there is pepper cheese, like a hot pepper cheese. It's made with like habanero mixed in with it. It is really spicy, but man, it is good. It's like Swiss and habanero mixed together. So they do like, when they make the cheese itself, they put in like the habanero juice, and then they put in little flecks of habanero like throughout it too. Very, very good. Very tasty cheese. I love it. But yeah. Cheddar's probably overall my favorite. I like pepper jack a lot too, and provolone is another one of my favorites. So if like pepper jack isn't available, I'll do cheddar. And if cheddar isn't available, I'll do provolone, just to get it going. But, I notice I'm kind of trembling on the screen here. I'm sorry if you guys are getting a little annoyed by that, but I'm kind of like if I stop moving a part of my body at any given time, I'm going to hemorrhage and I'm going to die. And I don't want to die here on screen. So like I'm kind of shaking my leg a little bit, and it's maybe making my body shake a little bit on the screen. So horseradish cheese. Yes. Horseradish cheese. That's a really good one, man. I love some horseradish cheese too. I forgot about its existence. Thanks, Holly. Now you made me hungry for horseradish cheese. I love it though. It is good stuff. So, anyways, going back to a little bit of the topic at hand, mental health stuff. One of the things that I've been dealing with of late is some of the PTSD things for me. And I've been handling it pretty well. Like, I think some of them have been coming about because of my radio days, and so like I've been doing these streams every day for hours every day. So it's kind of been triggering a little bit of the PTSD stuff for me. But I think that I've been doing really well handling it by reminding myself that this isn't the radio and that I'm more in control of what's going on with things than I was back then. And by the way, hello to everybody who's just coming in. Welcome. I'm very glad to have you here. My name is Ira. This is Blind Dad Does. Right now, Blind Dad is doing a conversation about whatever comes to mind. You guys just missed a really in-depth hour and a half long religious discussion. But whatever happens to be on your mind tonight or whatever, come on out. Have a talk with us. We're not going to bite you. We're very friendly people here. So either way, though, welcome. I'm very grateful that you're here. And I thank you for spending these few moments with me as I just kind of traverse the universe and have a little bit of fun talking about whatever happens to come to mind. So, anyways, back in the radio days, at the end of the radio days, I ended up really having a lot of bad stress to the point where I ended up getting diabetes. I was so stressed out, I ended up diabetic. These days I'm more diet controlled, but I've noticed over the past couple of days, my sugar levels have been going up a little bit, and I'm kind of wondering why. I can't really pin down because my diet hasn't changed. I haven't gained any weight or anything like that. I mean, it's like none of the cues are there as to why the sugar levels would be going up, but I'm getting a little bit concerned about it. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with that, but, it could be because I've kind of like been dealing with some of the subconscious stressors a little bit. And, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, to have like that PTSD stuff come up for me, because what I'm doing now is so different than what I was doing back then, and I'm enjoying it a lot more. So, but I think it's just kind of like a matter of, okay, I'm on the air, I'm on the screen, you guys are seeing me, and we're having a conversation, and so on and so forth. It's got the same kind of feel. How do I want to put this? Like the same kind of pathways in my mind are being followed, right? But it's a different energy altogether. So I guess I'm trying to come to terms with the fact that, yes, this is a lot different than it was back then, and that I am absolutely enjoying it a lot more. Back on the radio, I talked to a lot of people. I mean, there were some days where my shows would have, well over 2 to 3 million listeners at a time. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people to like put the energy out to, so it also made me a little bit nervous too, but, after that happened a few times, I started to get a little bit more accustomed to it. And, then the trolls started in. So as we saw earlier, there's a little bit more of a control factor when it comes to doing it this way, as opposed to doing it on the radio. And I like it a lot more. Like, I like being able to get a lot more personable with you guys, as opposed to just getting on here and like, blah, spitting out whatever comes, right? But having this interaction is a lot nicer. It's a lot better for me. So I hope that you guys are having fun with it too, appreciating it too, because I am. I'm really enjoying it. to say the least.
Oh, I love you. Oh, I love you.
So if you are over there on Twitch, make sure you guys hit that follow button. I am trying to get up to affiliate status. I won't deny, like, one of my purposes for being here is maybe to make a couple of bucks, you know, with the ad money and all that kind of stuff, trying to take some money out of Bezos' pocket and all that kind of good stuff would be nice, right? But if you're following me on YouTube, make sure you head over on Twitch too. I am Blind Dad Does over on Twitch, and I am Blind Dad Does over on YouTube. So if you're watching through Twitch, if you want to head over to YouTube, I do things differently on the YouTube channel than I do on the Twitch channel. There are things that are over on YouTube that you're not going to find on Twitch, just because Twitch is more focused on that, you know, live moment to moment content. And on YouTube, I have more short form videos. I have more like focused videos where it's very, this topic is what's going to be discussed right here, you know? So, unfortunately, you won't find my radio shows there anymore. I ended up delisting all of my radio shows. Hey, all right. Oh my goodness. Hey, Fifi, thank you so much for being here. My goodness, my friend, it is so good to have you here tonight with me. And I hope that you're having a very good day. You were over there on Final Fantasy for hours and hours and hours and hours. Did you finally end up finishing it? Or walk away from it, at least for the moment? Either way, it is really good to have you here. I was just kind of discussing some of the stuff as far as like my radio shows and all that kind of stuff goes. Over on YouTube, like, I'll tell you, this was really heartbreaking for me. You guys want to hear a really heartbreaking story? I'll tell you a really heartbreaking story here. So, oh, you got to head to bed. Okay, Tina, thank you so much. Virtual hug for you too. Dad hug for you right here. Love you. Be sure to get some good rest, and thank God for the in-laws being good, right? So I will be back on again tomorrow. You're more than welcome to come back. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And be safe. So one of the heartbreaking things that ended up occurring for me, and this was, I'll tell you, I went through a real big torture session with myself for a good few weeks. Just spinning around in my mind. Cause okay, like, one thing with me is that I know I'm a fair bit OCD about some things. Okay. For good or bad, it's just the way that it is. Right. If I get focused on something, I can't let it go until either I have decided upon the thing or, something changes, right? So my YouTube channel, again, Blind Dad Does over there on YouTube. My YouTube channel I've had for years. I mean, I think my channel is like 14 years old or something like that. It's at least in that zone. Okay. 12 years. Maybe I started in 2009. Maybe it's about 12 years. Anyways, regardless, it's really old. You know what I mean? It's been around for a while. And, the channel has gone through different stages of being throughout its existence. At first I was trying to do like scripted, funny things and, you know, thoughtful things and all that kind of stuff. You know, kind of what you hear me talking about on these things is kind of what I was talking about there, but more like, let's see how much I can condense down into like 3 to 5 minutes or so. Then things switched. I started doing the radio show. Like, I gave that up after a little bit of time. Like, I did it for a couple of years, but then I moved on to like writing books and doing other things in the creative genre for me. So then I started doing the radio shows, and I started to simulcast the radio shows onto my YouTube channel. And in total, by the time like, and then after I did the radio shows, I moved on into other things like doing my audio stories and, all different. So my YouTube channel essentially has been a bit of a mess, like it's gone through a lot of different changes and stages throughout its existence. And, some for the best and some for not, you know what I mean? Yeah, Ollie got a new model. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing their new model in action. It's really cool. So the debate, the trouble that I was having over the past few weeks is what to do with the channel, because I've wanted to focus like more on doing the gaming and doing things like away from what the radio content was. Here's the problem. Here's where the problem comes in. And this is where the heartbreak kind of comes in. I've done the calculations by looking through all of the videos and all the time that again, OCD, right? I'm obsessed with this kind of data, right? I have over 195 days worth of content on that channel. If you were to go to the first video that I published, hit play, and play every single video of mine from there to now, 195 days from now, you would have the first repeat. Like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, nonstop playing, 195 days worth of content. That is a lot of content. Yeah, it's a lot of content. And I'm not saying it like as a matter of pride. I'm telling you this because this is where this really heavy weight has been on me when it comes to what to do with the channel, because that is a lot of stuff, right? Not only is it a lot of stuff that I've done, and it's all my babies, you know what I mean? Like everything that I do is kind of like, creatively speaking, is kind of my baby. You know, it's my child. It came out of my brain. I created it. It's my baby, right? And according to the like analytics and everything like that, I've had over 1.5 million or so views of videos on that channel. Yeah, my pride and joy. But all of like, not all, but a vast majority of those are having to do with the radio shows, which have nothing to do with what I'm doing in the here and now, right? It's a completely different content model. It was basically me getting on for 2 hours, having a radio show while I was broadcasting on the networks. The radio shows were, very fringy topics, very, again, not that I'm not proud of them or anything like that, but it's just, I've moved on from all of that. Right. And I do have like a lot of PTSD when it comes to what happened, like surrounding that content, not the content itself, but the life that I had to be involved with while I was doing all of that content. I hope that makes sense. Like there's a big difference between the two, not the content itself. The content itself is really good and I love it. And I loved what I did. Right. But there were so many things surrounding it that I had to endure while doing it, that to go back and watch it definitely like triggers a lot of negative stuff. And again, like I was so stressed out from the stuff that I was having to go through during that period of time that I ended up diabetic. That's how bad it got. Right. So for like 3 weeks, I like kind of beat myself over the head trying to figure out what to do with all of this stuff. In the end, I haven't deleted the content, but I have delisted all of the content. So I've put it as unlisted because I know that there are shit ton of links out there that like point back to the content that I created. You know, I'm on like different playlists and different, you know, websites and all. I mean, lots. You don't have 195 days worth of content and over 1 million views without having lots of links out there somewhere, right? So, I ended up delisting a lot of the content. Like I pretty much just deleted like over 1 million views off of my channel. And I don't know how bad that's going to affect things. That's where I'm kind of like really worried, you know, because again, my channel's a certain age, you know, and I've gone through like lots of different stages trying to get attention to the channel. And to just say, okay, screw that 1 million views. It's all gone. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, how much is that going to affect the channel? That's where I'm really concerned. And I've kind of been, I don't know, kicking things around over the past few days and feeling a little bit stressy from it, I think, because it's like that, oh God, what did I just do? You know, that kind of thing that goes through the mind. Oh God, holy crap, what did I just do to myself? You know? Indeed. We love all voices. All voices here are welcome. In fact, we had to ban a few people earlier tonight because they were very anti-LGBT, and I am all about making sure that that kind of voice gets squelched pretty quickly. But any other voice, you're more than welcome to. You know, we're just here. You know, we're just here having a talk about whatever happens to come to mind. Right now, I'm kind of talking about a little bit of mental health stuff. You know, but it's just because, like, I want you guys to know, like, the things that I go through, you know, like what a content creator has to deal with, you know, when it comes to making decisions that might really impact them in a bad or good way. One of my concerns is that, like, because we're dealing with YouTube here, right? And Twitch is a lot different, of course, because with Twitch, it's all about the discovery in the moment. You know, so it's a very different animal to deal with. You know, you either have the viewers or you don't. And unfortunately, I'm not a big enough channel yet to have a lot of viewers, you know, but I love every one of you guys that are here with me. And that's the point. So, with YouTube, it's a lot different though. With YouTube, it's about like, is the content that you're putting out relevant to the tags that you put it with, the title that you put it with, the description that you put it with, the amount of views that you've had on previous videos, the amount of views that you've had like recently, so on and so forth and so on, right? I've got like thousands of subscribers over on YouTube, but they're all there because of the radio stuff. Like, they're not there for me coming on and playing games. They're not there for me just coming on and talking. They're there because they were there for the radio stuff. And so one of the things that I've been encountering, I think, is that the algorithm knows me as being a certain thing, you know, fitting within a certain bubble. And now I've been trying to transition into doing other things, so I'm outside of that bubble. It doesn't know what to do with me. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't know how to handle things. So what I've noticed is that my views on YouTube have tumbled in a big way, and that my click-through rate has also taken a very big nosedive. Click-through rate seems to be kind of like the god of YouTube, really. You know, you have your video put in front of somebody, that's an impression that's created with the YouTube algorithm. But if that person doesn't click the thumbnail, then it brings that click-through rate down by a certain degree percentage-wise. And if you kind of fall below a certain percentage of the click-through rate, your videos just don't get shown to anybody. I mean, it's just the way that it is. So that's why I ended up delisting all of the videos, because I didn't want the algorithm to keep putting these things up in front of people to then have them come to my channel and see that I'm doing something vastly different than what I did 2 to 3 years ago, you see. But I don't know how much it's going to hurt me. I don't. And so that's why I'm kind of like focusing a little bit more on Twitch, because I'm new to Twitch, you know, so it's like more of a fresh, how do I want to put this? Blank slate, I guess is the best way I can put it. I'm more of a blank slate to it. And with Twitch, it works a little bit different. You know, you put yourself into the category of whatever it is that you're wanting to stream that particular moment, and you're either going to be on the list or you're not, depending on how many viewers you get. At least that's my understanding of it. I'm still trying to figure all this crap out, is really what it comes down to. So either way, though, I'm glad that you guys are along for the journey and along for the ride. I'm trying to, you know, just have as much fun with it as I can. But at the same time, I have been dealing with like trying to keep my own mind from getting too obsessed with making things work, when maybe it's just a matter of time to get it to work. I hope that that makes sense. Because I just want to be here for everybody, you know, like, again, the discussion that we were having earlier was a really big religious topic. For me, I'm agnostic, but I'm also ordained. And at the same time, I'm not a professing Christian. But I think that at this stage of my life, I understand Christ more than I ever did when I was a professing Christian. So it's like, but I know and understand the texts and the contexts of all of those texts better than your average person does, because I've done a scad ton of research on all of the topics, because it's important for me to have done so. Again, the obsessed part of my mind kicked in and made me do it. You know what I mean? So, but I talk about all of the things that I talk about because I not only want to be entertaining for people. I mean, yes, I'd like to get on here and be entertaining with people, right? But at the same time, I want to make you think. I want to make you walk away from it going, oh, yeah, I never thought about it that way. Or, oh, yeah, that was really fun, or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to enjoy myself, because it's been a long time since I've been able to enjoy myself. I don't get out, you know, like, quite frankly, I don't get out because I can't drive. I have to rely on my wife to drive me wherever it is that I need to go. And I don't have any friends. You know, I have one friend, Joe, and his wife. But anything beyond that, like, we just... Okay, well, there's another absolutely abject, absolute idiot that decides that they wanted to come in and get themselves. Have a great night, whoever you are, Gwen Stefani, I don't know, Gwen Stefani. Yeah. Have a great night. Have a great life. Hopefully you'll learn how to treat people better and actually be a human being. It'd be nice. Yep. Okay. Ollie, are you there? You want to go ahead and do that? I don't know if they're there or not. I'll take care of it. That's fine. So that's what I'm talking about, is, you know, being able to have that little bit of control factor is nice. You got it, Ollie. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna put a little bit of text into the chat room here just so that stuff disappears. There you go. I think I got it. Oh, was it on YouTube? Yeah, it is. Okay, I'll get it. Or you got it. Sorry, guys. Be patient. Yeah, I remembered. I forgot to give you mod over there. If you want to go over there, I'll make sure you get modded. this is the kind of thing that you have to deal with sometimes, and it's okay. People are going to be whatever people they want to be. And sorry guys, be patient. There you go. There we go. Okay, got it taken care of. Ollie, if you want to put a little bit of text into the YouTube chat, I'll make sure to get you the mod there. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but it's just kind of one of those things that one has to deal with sometimes. And, you know, you just kind of move on from there. Just kind of move on from there. Just don't even have to acknowledge their existence. On my YouTube channel, okay, so let me put it to you this way. One of the things that I've discovered over the years, there you go. You should be mod over there now, Ollie. Usually I have Jolene doing it, but of course she's asleep on me right now. So, well, not on me, but you know, she's asleep at the moment. So anyway, one of the things that I've discovered over the years is that the comment section and the chat room in YouTube's bailiwick is sort of the cesspit of Satan's sperm. You have to deal with a lot of absolute stupidity over there sometimes. And it's just because, like, the control factor with it is a little, like, the moderation tools and that kind of thing are a little bit less effective. Like, I cannot ban words from being spoken in the chat, such as the ones that this waste of human skin was trying to express. I can't ban those for whatever reason. Their moderation tools are not the same as they are on Twitch. So, it's just one of the problems that you have to deal with, you know? So best thing I figured out to do over the years is just, you know, okay. I mean, thank you for showing yourself never encounter bad karma in your life for it. Because that's the thing. I mean, people that are that way, one way or the other, things do come back on everybody. You know, karma is a bitch. It really is. I've discovered that in my life in a big way. Karma is a bitch. And if you live your life with vitriol and heartache and causing harm to others, that's what you ultimately get to. You do. They probably have a very, very miserable life. I guarantee it. They have a very miserable life. And they feel that this is the only way that they can express that misery, by making other people have it, you know? So the only thing I can do as the person whose space it's happening in is to remove it as rapidly as I can. But unfortunately, with my vision issues, I can't remove it as rapidly. So, am I still there with you guys? Okay. Can you guys see me now? Am I done buffering and all that kind of stuff now? Just making sure. I'm giving it a moment here. Testing. 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. For some reason, I think something was happening to the connection between my computer and Streamlabs. Because I stream to both YouTube and Twitch. I'm streaming to like their streaming service. And so I noticed on the output that my output was at 0, but my internet connection's still fine. So something was happening between me and Streamlabs itself, I think, or between Streamlabs and like Streamlabs itself went down, basically, is what I'm talking about. So, but it should be back. We should be good now. Hopefully it didn't like murder the YouTube feed or something like that, like sometimes happens. So. Okay. Yeah. We should be good. Wow. For some reason, my upload speed is going to like 140 megabytes per second. Why is that happening? That's crazy. It's like really trying to catch up, I think. It's like super trying to catch up. Yeah. Weird. Okay. Anyways, moving on. The point that I was trying to make before I got so rudely interrupted by Streamlabs is, the only thing that I can do as a content creator and whose space all of that kind of stuff takes place in is just to ignore it as best as I can while deleting it so that nobody else has to be affected by it. But karma's a bitch, and it will definitely come back on the people that do that kind of thing. I guarantee you, are living a very miserable life. They are not happy at all. They are not happy with their lives at all. And the only thing I can do is to wish them the best of luck and hope that their lives get better and that they finally come to terms with whatever, because it is an absolutely psychological issue that happens with that kind of a person. So Streamlabs is fun. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. I know that if I was to like just do a straight stream to Twitch or something like that, that kind of thing probably would be less likely to happen. But it's the kind of thing that you have to go through when you're doing to both. So whatever, it happens. Unfortunately, I saw that I lost a few viewers during that buffering session too. So, oh well, that's okay. I still love all of you. I do. I still do. Even the people that come in and troll like that. You know what I mean? I do. I have an inherent understanding that things like that are a mental illness, you know, and I just, all I can do is just wish them that they will seek treatment in some kind of way. Cause it is something wrong with them, you know, mentally speaking. So anyways, like I was saying, as far as the YouTube channel goes, my big concern is that, with me basically delisting all of the things, is this going to really screw up the algorithm for my channel? And am I going to lose like a lot of people? I have noticed that my subscriber amount has been going down dramatically. Like, I've been losing subs like crazy, like bleeding them since I switched formats and stuff. I expected to lose some, but like I've lost hundreds, you know, and it's a little disheartening, you know, because I worked really hard for all of those that I got a hold of, you know, and so to lose them like that, it's a little disheartening. But oh, I'm back, I think. Yeah, I am. Should be anyways. According to my setup here, it shows that I'm back as normal. So as normal as I can get anyway. I dropped like 21,000 frames though during that period of time. So because the connection got deleted basically. That's okay. It's because I made you mod. Like it happened right after I made you mod. It's like, oh no, we can't make Ollie a mod. No, that can't happen. That's not right. No. Like as soon as I triggered that, boom, it happened. So I don't know. What'd you do, Ollie? What'd you do to my channel? You broke me. I kid. The timing was very impeccable with it though. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's like, it's a little disheartening, but I'm doing my best to like not let it get to me. But it is kind of getting to me a little bit, just seeing like logging into the back end of it and seeing that, okay, well, I lost another 20 subscribers, lost another 10 here, lost another 5 here. It's a little disheartening, I can't deny, but, I hope that like things will pick back up again as I keep doing stuff. I'm enjoying what I'm doing though. I've been streaming every single day. I think I've only taken like one day off in the past 2 weeks. But I'm really enjoying my time here, and enjoying what I'm doing with you guys and just having fun. Sometimes I play games, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just get on here and talk. I was going to do another game tonight, but I decided my eyes were. So earlier today I played New World. Okay. And it was okay. Like it was a pretty decent game. I will play it again, but the one problem that I have with the game is kind of like one of the things that I'm such a big advocate for. Now, see, here's the issue. So New World is developed by Amazon, and they're trying to make it into this big production AAA game. They've put like millions of dollars into making this happen, and they've already, it's getting very popular. Already, even in the closed beta, they've had 100. They had 190,000 concurrent players today. That's a lot of players to be in a closed beta, right? That is a lot of people playing. So this game, this AAA game, developed by a studio that is pretty decently sized, like they've got a big chunk, right? You would think that in that kind of a situation, they would do a little bit more work as far as the UI is concerned. And one of the problems that I encountered is that no matter what I did, I could not scale the UI to make it so that I could see very well at all. Like the icons for the buffs, I kid you not, were like smaller than my pinky thumbnail or my pinky nail, right? On the screen. And that's super tiny for somebody that's like me, right? It was like half the size of my pinky nail. They had one option that was there for text, like to make text bigger, right? But the only thing that affected was the text for the chat streaming along the side of the screen. That's the only thing that it has an effect on. It doesn't affect the UI in any kind of way. And there's no way to like scale it so that it's a larger size, one way or the other. So the problem with that is that while somebody that's like you guys that has okay vision, would probably be able to function with that kind of thing with no problem. Someone like me, it makes it super difficult. So the whole, like it was a 3-hour stream, and basically the whole time I had to really strain my eyes to be able to like catch what I needed to catch, So I hope, like I gave him a lot of feedback. Like I put in the whole survey feedback stuff, look, you guys need to focus on the UI and make it scalable. I don't know what'll come about from it. Literally the game's getting released in like 2 weeks. So I don't know what kind of thing they're going to be able to do between that period of time and now to make it more functional. I don't even think they're going to bother, honestly. I'm just putting it to you out there. I don't think they're going to bother. But it is my hope. Because one of the things that I'm a big advocate for is developers just putting in a little bit of time to make the game more accessible for people. Because if they do, it opens up a whole new world of people that would be happy to come in and play the game. Diablo 2 is getting a remaster. And one of the things that was literally just announced today, in fact, too, is that the remaster, they've focused a lot on making the UI better than it was during, the original Diablo 2 days. They've made it so that the UI is scalable. They made it so that the words are scalable. They made it so that the like instead of having to click, like, you know, again, it's Diablo, right? It's the hack and slash, you know, you've got to just keep clicking that button over and over millions of times, right? They made it so that instead of having to do that, it's easier for people with the physical issues, because you can set it so that instead of having to multiple click, you can just click once, hold it down, and it'll keep doing the attacks. Little things like that make a huge difference. And that kind of thing right there alone, like, saves people a lot of carpal tunnel things too. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people would make use of something like that, because a lot of people have issues with their hands because of the games that they played over the years, giving them trouble with their hands. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I can't wait for that game either. I played the absolute frick out of Diablo 2. I put a good couple thousand hours into that game, man. I played the hell out of it. I am super looking forward to Diablo 2, the remaster coming out, and I think it's going to be really good. You'll see it here on my channel for sure. I love the storyline of it. It was really good. You know, they did a nice job on it overall, and I'm looking forward to it. Diablo 3, I got into. I've got like max level characters, and, you know, I've got like all the goodies when it comes to, you know, the set items and all that kind of stuff. Again, I've put hundreds of hours into that game, but I didn't put as much into that game as I did with Diablo 2. I like Diablo 2 a little bit better. I think that the whole thing that they did with Diablo 2 with the skill trees and everything like that, it's hard to beat that one. You know what I mean? Like, it was really good. They did a nice job with it. So I still have it too. I just don't play it anymore because it's a little hard for me to these days. You know what I mean? But I wish that I could. But I did try to load it up, like, actually even just a few months ago, and it was a little bit wonky for me to be able to see it. So I'm hoping that with this new remaster, it'll be a lot better.
It's so fabulous.
It is fabulous indeed. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be good. I'll put money into it for sure. And you know what's funny too? Fifi, I don't remember last night. Do you remember me talking about how one of the things that I would love to see with, like, just last night, right? I was talking about how one of the things I would love to see with Fallout is like the private worlds having the mods and all that kind of stuff on it, right? So after I got done with that show, Bethesda actually did an announcement that they're coming out with a new set of things for Fallout 76. So one of the things that they're doing is coming out with custom worlds that you can play on. So for people that don't have Fallout First, they're going to have like this monthly rotation of different play things that can be done in a custom world. So for example, one of the things is having no build limit, or having no jump height restrictions, no fall damage, no ammo needed, on and on and on. Lots of different like things that you can do as tweaks to the world that you're creating. What was another one? Endless spawns, you know, like non-stop spawns and all that kind of stuff. And for Fallout First members, if you have Fallout First, you can do this same custom world, but you can choose which ones you want to have. So if you have Fallout First, you can choose how the world's going to be, like by doing the different settings on it and stuff. And then for those that don't have Fallout First, that are doing the more public worlds of it, Bethesda themselves will each month do a different set of custom worlds that you can go into. And each time it's going to be like a rotating kind of things where different things will be tweaked in the world. So I think it's fun. Were they listening to me? Because it was right after I got off the show. Suddenly, boom, they did this big announcement. Like, it was literally in the middle of the night. It's bizarre. Like, out of nowhere, they came out with the patch notes for the public test server, that this was going to be how it was going to be. So right now it is live on the public test server to do this kind of stuff. So probably tomorrow, when I do my broadcast, I'm going to go on to the public test server and see, like, tweak around and see what's going on with it, and play around with it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with it. I guess at least so far their plan is that they're going to put it on the PTS for the next month, and then the patch for whatever it is that they're going to be doing with it is going to come out in September. I guess the beginning of September is what they're shooting for, if everything goes well. So Yeah, it's just kind of funny, like the funny timing. Yeah, I wish that things were this way. And then suddenly, boom, okay, hey, you guys are listening to me, weren't you? Were they watching my show? The things that make you wonder. Well, guys, listen, it is about 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been on here for about 3 hours now. And I do need to get some food. I'm starting to get really hungry. And I've been broadcasting for 6 hours today. Fifi, I got nothing on you. You did like, what, 18, 19 hours today? Holy crap, dude. Oh, I'm not there yet. I might get there someday, but I'm not there yet. But anyways, I think I'm going to go ahead and take a little breast. Yeah, I'm going to take a little breast right now. Maybe that'll give me the Twitch views. Anyway, I think I'm going to take a little rest here, go get some food, and I will be back online again tomorrow to be with you guys. And I do hope that all of you guys have had a good night, that your night and day goes very well. Nothing but love for all of you, and I do deeply appreciate every single one of you guys being here with me tonight. 19 hours and 30 minutes. Good Lord, dude. More power to you. Anyways, be safe out there. Have fun. Thank you so much as always for being here. And I'll talk to you again later.
Incoming customer detected.
Keep your eyes open, boys.
We need to have a serious talk.